I learned interviewing a stranger was going to be a regular criteria as part of our speeches, my blood ran cold. I have always been an introvert, so approaching strangers was foreign to me. However, I've met some very nice people and discovered how approachable people really are, as well as willing to be of help. I've also learned that when I'm faced with fear, procrastinating only builds up the fear, which makes it so much worse. I've learned to conquer my fears and do it quickly. I've also learned how much easier my life runs when I don't procrastinate. When I am overwhelmed, that is when I tend to lean toward procrastination. When I make the decision to simply do the next thing, suddenly I am able to accomplish tasks which were once overwhelming. I've also learned not only that anything worth doing is, I've also learned only that anything worth doing is worth doing well, but that doing something well requires time. Putting things off to the last minute for whatever reason leads to rushing, and rushing leads to forgetting. In the interview by Michelle Slatella, entitled The Big Dilly-Dally of the New York Times, she interviewed Dr. Ferrari. He explained in classes that teach study habits, students learn to forget the forest and instead look at each tree. Everything can be broken down. Let's just cut down one tree at a time. The key, researchers agree, is to break down assignments into small, manageable increments that require no more of an hour of work on any given day. However, for Dr. Venditti's class, I would suggest 2 hours of work, at least 5 days a week. That is why it is important to be organized. As a young girl, I remember my mother being extremely organized. She had to be. Not only was she a school teacher, but also the mother of 4 children and a minister's wife as well. Any of these occupations would be considered a full-time job by themselves. Thankfully, I learned to be organized through my mother's example. Unfortunately, I didn't put that into practice until much later in my life. I have always been a list person, writing down tasks that I needed to accomplish, but it didn't occur to me to write down my thoughts as well. I learned this through reading Dr. Venditti's book, Building Business Success. Organizing my thoughts enables me to accomplish not only necessary tasks, but enjoyable pursuits as well. I have learned that being organized allows me to accomplish tasks, which help fend off procrastination, which helps me to conquer my fears. I have also discovered I do have a voice, and what I have to say is of value to others. That leads me to my third point, my advice for future students. Be organized, get a second binder, and start entering the required ingredients in it as you go along. Don't procrastinate. Be willing and do the next thing. Break down each assignment as it comes. And trust that you will conquer your fears. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. We all make them. That's how we learn. When interviewing a current student from another of Dr. Venditti's classes, I learned the student feels she can't wait to be finished with the class and says she would still be just as nervous speaking in front of a group. Maybe I just caught her on a bad day, but that's okay. Not everyone is ready for the public speaking circuit. As Randy Fujishin writes in his book, The Natural Speaker, there's no guarantee that you'll get rid of the butterflies completely, but the butterflies will fly in formation. With practice and experience, your ability and willingness will increase and your fear will decrease. Again, I believe lessons are best learned through experience, preferably others. I hope that by sharing my thoughts, what I've learned, and my advice to future students has been helpful. And to future students, I encourage you to challenge yourselves. As Dr. Venditti warned us on the first day of class, this will be an experience like no other, and I agree.